and welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we're doing a really versatile and delicious dessert recipe for you, and it is for pastry cream. Now we're going to do a couple of different varieties. We're going to do a classic vanilla and also a chocolate, and they're going to be very, very similar until the end, where we are going to change it up a little bit, and you'll see what we do with those. But let's start off with our ingredients. So we're starting off with some milk, some egg yolks, just the yolks, some butter, some sugar, some cornstarch or tapioca starch, which is what we're using here. We've got some baker's chocolate and some vanilla paste. Now, you don't have to use vanilla paste. You can use vanilla beans if you prefer, or just plain vanilla. It's going to change how you add it to your recipe. So for the vanilla pastry cream, we're starting off with just putting the milk in a pan. And we're going to heat this up and steep the vanilla paste in there for a little while because we want to extract some of that amazing vanilla flavor. And you're going to do the same thing if you have a vanilla bean because you want to extract the flavor out of the vanilla into the milk as you're heating it up. Now, if you're using vanilla extract, you don't have to add it to the milk as you're warming it up because you're going to be adding the vanilla extract later. You don't need to extract any more flavor from vanilla extract. It's already done. So you'll add that towards the end. While that's heating up, and when it gets pretty close, we're going to get our egg yolks ready. So we're going to separate 3 eggs and, save those egg whites for something else. You can make an angel food cake or something out of the egg whites, so long as you don't get any yolk at all in there. And then we're going to add our sugar and the starch, as well as just a pinch of salt into the egg yolks. And we're going to whip that together really, really quickly and really thoroughly as well. You want to make sure it gets good and pale, really, really fluffy. And you're going to basically beat that to the ribbon, which means when you drop it like that, it takes a moment. It looks like a ribbon sitting on top and it stays on top for a moment. So you're going to beat that until it's super, super smooth, very light and fluffy. Changes color. It's going to change color to this very light color, and that's your starch and your sugar. And then we're going to very slowly temper this with the hot milk. Now, what I mean by tempering is we don't want to add in all of that hot milk at once because it's going to scramble the eggs. So you want to add in just a tiny, tiny bit at a time to slowly heat up those eggs and cook them very, very slowly so that they don't scramble and they really incorporate that milk. And as you get towards the end, you can add it a little bit faster. And the reason we're being careful with this is because we're going to put that back on the stove and we're going to cook this for a while. And the reason is, to make pastry cream, we want this to thicken. And egg yolks contain an enzyme called amylase that will eat the starch essentially, and it'll stop it from thickening. It'll stop it from gelling essentially. So we need to get this back up to temperature on the stove, and we need to cook it until it's good and thick. And it takes a few minutes. It's going to look like this for a while, so don't worry. You have to make sure you're not undercooking this, or when it sits overnight, it's not going to set. So once it's been cooked for a while and it's been done, usually 3 to 5 minutes, we're going to strain it. We just want to make sure there's no little bits of egg or anything in there. So we're going to strain this over the butter we showed you earlier, and that can be room temperature. That's fine. You don't want it necessarily to be cold, but we don't want it to be melted or anything. The hot pastry cream is going to melt the butter. Don't worry about that. And then we're going to stir in that butter. This is just for that little bit of extra richness, that glossiness, that nice silky, smooth, creamy texture to the buttercream. You can see how thick it is here. And that's about the texture we're looking for. And then we're going to cover it. And we want to make sure that we're not just covering the container we're putting it in. We want the plastic wrap to actually be touching the surface of the pastry cream so that it doesn't form a skin. So we want it to cool nice and evenly, and we want it to not form a skin on top. So just make sure that you've got a good even touch of the saran wrap or the cling wrap on top of your pastry cream. And then we're going to let that sit and get to room temperature, and then it's going to go in the fridge overnight. Now for the second one, we're going to prepare some chocolate to go with the butter that we're going to add in at the end. So we're not going to steep the chocolate in the milk at the beginning, but we are going to, again, heat up our milk in a pan. But that chocolate's going to get added to the butter. We're going to strain the pastry cream. The rest of the process is going to be identical, except we're not adding vanilla paste into the milk at the beginning. So this is just plain milk. So the egg yolks and the starch and the sugar and the salt all together, we're going to whisk it all together. It goes back in the pan again, and it gets cooked again, gets strained again. So this is all exactly the same as for the vanilla pastry cream. You can see there aren't any little bits of vanilla in this. And that's going to go, and we're going to strain that into our chocolate and butter mixture. And there we go. So that's, if you've, cut that chocolate up nice and finely, it's going to melt with the butter very, very easily. And we're just going to whisk that until it's good and smooth. And you can see, again, it's got that beautiful, rich, thick texture. It's nice and thick. And again, we want to cover this so that the saran wrap or the cling wrap is touching the surface of the pastry cream so that it doesn't form a skin on top. We're going to let that go to room temperature, and then we're going to refrigerate it overnight. And then the next day, we're going to do our donuts. So this is one of the things, we're going to do the recipe for the donuts next week. And we stuff these donuts with that chocolate pastry cream. You can see how nice and thick that is set. Now, for the vanilla pastry cream, we actually had a problem. We didn't cook it enough. The amylase ate the starch, and it didn't set. You can see it's very, very runny. It still tasted fantastic. And you can bring back pastry cream that is undercooked, that is not set. So we made these sweet vol au vents with raspberries, and we used that pastry cream. Now, if you want to bring back pastry cream that hasn't set, there is a way to do that, and it's just basically add a little bit of milk and a little bit more cornstarch and bring it back onto the stove and cook it again. You got to make sure those egg yolks are cooked. That amylase will eat all that starch, and make sure it doesn't set. So if you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. Thanks again to all of our patrons. If you'd like to support us, I'll put a link in the description below. And remember to love your food.